Alright, and that's the second week of playoff hockey, everyone. It's been a very exciting round one. We're going to look forward to round two, but not before I recap it all. Recapping everything that went on this week. Telling a couple memes that I made. It's going to be a fun little recap here. Probably quite a long video as well. I don't know how long it's going to be. I'm just starting recording right now, so we'll see. So this is my first picture I made of Connor McDavid. As we know, the Oilers got swept by the Winnipeg Jets, and I think he shares some sadness with Jack Eichel and Zdeno Chara, definitely for sure. And there were so many overtime games, especially that triple overtime game between the Oilers and Jets, that I made a little meme here as well, because especially people on the East Coast, I'm sure that you haven't slept much if you've watched all the games. Personally, I think I've watched 90% of the games so far. Some games I didn't watch, especially the early games, the game 1s and game 2s, I didn't watch much of those. But I've been tuning into basically all the games. And I like it. It's enlightened me of how these teams are playing and what kind of direction they're going in. As well as this, when Jordan Binnington tried to fight Grubauer after the first game, I believe, or the second, I don't remember. Yeah, someone wanted me to make Binnington point at a broom. That showed they got swept. Yeah. So I apologize if any of these offend your team here, because that's not my intention. I'm just making some jokes. I love all the teams. Most of them, at least. Alright, so let's get into our first recap here. Carolina and Nashville. I gotta say, I really enjoyed the series. It was filled with fans. It felt great. Very electric atmospheres. I love it. So this series went 4-2 for Carolina, and bless Nashville's heart. They played very well. Power play for Carolina, 21.1%, Nashville, 11.5%, Carolina, 88.5%. They did very well in the penalty killing, and Nashville, 79%. Top 3 point getters for Carolina, Sebastian Aho with 5 goals and 7 points, Jordan Staal, 5 points, Marty Necas, 5 points. Top 3 point getters for Nashville, Granlund, 5 points, Ellis, 5 points, Johansson, 4 points. Goaltending, Nedeljkovic and Saros were great. Nedeljkovic, I guess, got the final edge with a 4-2 record and a .922 save percentage. Saros, bless his heart, he played very well. In game 1 was 5-2 for Carolina. Arvidsson was in for scrums early, a great atmosphere. Yeah, Forsberg scored, Teravainen tied the game. Yeah, we don't have to go over everything here. Stahl and Haula traded goals. Predators pushed, but Carolina able to win that game. And we saw a storm surge after the first game. Game 2, Carolina shut the Nashville Predators out 3-0. Aho opened the scoring, and 2 goals in the final minute, and Nedeljkovic at 32 save shutout. In Game 3, Jacob Slavin and Arvidsson were out. Ellis opened the scoring early. Aho tied it. Forsberg scored. And then Trocheck and Granlund and Stahl scored. Johansson scored. Pesce tied it with 3:21 left in the period. Duchesne with a winner in double overtime. Shots 56-54. Some unhappiness from Robert and Moore about the officiating. And yeah, the officiating did help Nashville a little bit here. I'm not going to lie. That's for sure. Game 4, 4-3 for Nashville, double overtime win again. Jacob Slavin was out again. Predators scored early, and again, Carolina falling behind early. They'll have to definitely get better at that in the next round. Yeah. And then, shots are 61-43 for the Canes, but the Predators win after Luke Cunnin got the overtime winner. In Game 5, Jacob Slavin was finally back in, and the game went to Carolina. Yakov Trenin scored in the first, not a high stick. Natchez scored in the power play. Trenin gets his second goal in the second period. Slavin scored, but no goal due to goaltender interference. Natchez scored with 7 minutes left in the third. There are 2 penalties called in overtime, and Stahl bats the puck out of the air for the overtime winner. And finally, in Game 6, another overtime game. That's 4 straight overtime games. It was very close. Cousins opened the scoring, but McGinn tied it 2:36 after. Granlund scored early. Johansson scored in the 5-on-3. Aho gave Carolina the power play goal. Hamilton tied it with 6:01 left, and that showed how much the Hurricanes don't give up. I had confidence that Carolina can make a game out of anything. There's some insane saves by both goaltenders, and Aho finally deflects it in 66 seconds into overtime. So Carolina takes this series, and they'll go on to... Who are they facing again? I don't even remember. Who are they facing? Flip. Okay, I'll update you on that later. I think it's not Boston. No, it's Carolina and... Oh, shoot. Who was it? Carolina and... Okay, I'm not going to waste y'all's time right now, but I do want to remember who it was. Carolina and... Ah, shoot, I don't remember. Alright. We'll move on. Florida and Tampa. So the series went 4-2 for Tampa Bay. Power play for Florida was 27.3%. Tampa, 40%. Very good power play there. So penalty killing for Florida, 60%. Tampa, 72.7%. Top 3-point getters for Florida. Huberdeau, 10 points. Barkov, 7 points. Patrick Hornquist with 5 points. Nikita Kucherov for Tampa at 11 points. Alex Killorn, 8 points. Stamkos, 8 points. Goaltending, Spencer Knight. He played very well. He was 1-1, 933 save percentage. He really kept the Florida Panthers in the games. Bobrovsky definitely struggled, 1-2, 841 save percentage, 5.33 goals against average. Yeah, he struggled. Chris Drieger, he also kind of struggled. And Andrei Vasilevsky with a 919 save percentage. Oh, I didn't update his record. Oh, shoot. I didn't update him. Let me look at his stats here. Okay, it was 2.64 and 929 save percentage, so make note of that. Game 1, 5-4 for Tampa. Bobrovsky started. Coleman with a shorthanded goal. Kucherov and Stamkos were both in. Kucherov with 2 goals. Huberdeau with 3 points. 2 Florida goals in the third period. But Braden Point with the game winner with 1:14 left. Sam Bennett was suspended after Game 1 as well with a hit on Blake Coleman, I believe. In Game 2, 3-1 for Tampa. Drieger started. Stamkos with a goal off Stroman. Palat scored. Marchman scored in the second. There were some scrums. And great defense by Tampa in the third to close that one out. In Game 3, 6-5 for Florida in overtime. Sam Bennett back in. Keith Yandel scratched for the first time since March 2009. 2 goals on 4 shots for Florida. And then 3 goals for Tampa early in the second. Wenberg tied the game. But Florida, after trailing the third 5-3, Hornquist and Forsling scored in the third to force overtime. 43 shots for Florida in regulation. Lomberg with the overtime winner. All Panthers had a shot in Game 3. Game 4, 6-2 for Tampa. Bobrovsky started shots 15-7 in the first for Florida, but Tampa scores on 3 on 7 shots. And then Bobrovsky was pulled after allowing 5 on 14 shots. For Hagee, the lead power play goal in the second. Panthers have 6 power plays through 2 periods. Tampa had 1. Shots 35-17 for Florida after 2. Yeah, they tried there, but unfortunately, Tampa Bay was able to beat them. Florida pulling the goaltender 10:42 left. Duclair with a dirty play, chopped down Kucherov. Luckily, they weren't injured. Game 5, 4-1 for Florida. Spencer Knight started. First playoff game. Colton scores 53 seconds in on their first shot. Just 22-15 in the first for Tampa. Uyghur scores to tie it. Marchman scores late in the second. Hornquist scores in the third with Toronto empty netter. First playoff win for Spencer Knight. 36 saves after allowing a goal on the first shot. In Game 6, 4-0 for Tampa. Spencer Knight started. Maroon scores on the first Tampa shot. First Tampa shot, and Knight allows it again. Stamkos scored in the power play. Point scores with 5 minutes left in the third to one empty netter. Shots are 29-24 for Florida, and Vasilevsky with a 29-save shutout. And Tampa Bay advances to the second round. Now, this was very exciting, let me say, because Battle of Florida. Teams are into it, the crowds are into it. Big crowds, by the way. So this was by far the most exciting series, in my opinion. It was chippy, with a lot of hits, a lot of scrums, and scoring was great. Both these teams. Florida, I think, if they face any other team, I think they would have a good chance to win. But unfortunately, they faced Tampa off the bat. And though I predicted Florida to edge the Tampa Bay Lightning out in 7, Kucherov and Stamkos really proved me wrong. I said they wouldn't be 100%, and clearly they're above 100% right now. Holy. They're good. And Tampa moves on to the next round to face Carolina. That was the matchup. Yeah, okay. Carolina and Tampa. Alright, that was the matchup there. Alright, so now let's move on to the next series. Alright, Pittsburgh Penguins, New York Islanders. Series went 4-2 for the Islanders, and I know this might shock a few people, but I assure you that the Islanders have what it takes to beat Pittsburgh, time and time again. Power play for Pittsburgh, 25%. New York Islanders, 18.8%. Penalty killing, 81.3%. And Islanders, 75%. For Pittsburgh, Chris Letang at 6 points. Jeff Carter played very well. 4 goals, 5 points. Malkin, 5 points. Crosby's not on there. But yeah, he had the chances. For the Islanders, Anthony Beauvillier, 7 points. Pajot, 7 points. Brock Nelson, Josh Bailey, each have 3 goals and 6 points. Goaltending, Tristan Jarry. I know a lot of people will be criticizing him. And yeah, he had a tough Game 6, that's for sure. He had some okay games, that's for sure. Goalie depth, an issue for Pittsburgh, that's for sure. For the Islanders, Ilya Sorokin, 4-0, 943 save percentage. What a goalie. And Semyon Varlamov lost both of his games that he started. I don't know if he'll get any more starts after that kind of unfortunate performance. I suppose Ilya Sorokin will be starting the bulk of the games from now on. So game 1, 4-3 for the Islanders in overtime. Malkin was out, Sorokin started the game, Palmieri opened the scoring. Goudreau was his first playoff goal. Nelson scores with 4:30. There's 4:10 left in the third. Kapanen tied it 31 seconds later. Palmieri with the overtime winner. Shots 42-41 for Pittsburgh. They had 72 hits. My goodness. In game 2, 2-1 for Pittsburgh. Varlamov started the game. Russ scores off a turnover. Carter got a goal. 19 shots for Pittsburgh in the first period. Bailey, lone goal in the third. 6-on-4 chance in the Islanders, but they can't convert. Penguins, 45 shots. Game 3, 5-4 for Pittsburgh. Malkin took the warm-up, so he's back in. Chris Letang opened the score. Mayfield tied the game. Carter and Zucker, Clutterbuck and Beauvillier tied the game. Carter got a second of the game, and Tanev scored with 3:36 left for the game winner. Game 4, 4-1 for the Islanders. Sorokin started. Bailey opened the score in the second. Tristan Letang pushes Beauvillier into Jari, so no goaltender interference. Everly, back-to-back power play goal, 24 seconds apart. Aston Reese broke the shutout with 2:35 left. Game 5, 3-2 the Islanders in double overtime. Malkin scored on the power play early. Beauvillier tied it with less than 1 minute left in the first. Just 20-4 for Pittsburgh in the second. Everly timed the game on the 15th Islanders shot. Sorokin many saves. Bailey won it in double overtime off a Jari turnover. Very unfortunate for him. Ilya Sorokin with 48 saves and 50 shots. That's amazing play by Ilya Sorokin. Game 6, 5-3 for the Islanders. Carter scored 127 in on their first shot. Turnovers for the Penguins, and Beauvillier scores on their first shot. Gensel scored on the power play. Palmieri scores off a rebound off Jari. Zucker scored early in the second. Then the Islanders just took over. 2 goals in 13 seconds from Nelson and Pulock, which is a franchise record time between 2 goals. Nelson scored again after. And Penguins lose the game. Despite leading for nearly 180 minutes, Islanders led for just about 60. So Pittsburgh had the lead, but knew the Islanders didn't give up. Won games in overtime. Took advantage of the Penguins and Tristan Jari's mistakes. Look at the fans here. Very electric stands right there. I love seeing fans in the stands again. It really makes me proud to be a hockey fan. So the Islanders, I think, with their defensive play, are able to shut down the Penguins, and I love it. It wasn't as boring as I thought it would be. And I did tune in for a good portion of these games here. And I ended up having fun with this series. And we'll see what the Islanders can do against the Bruins. Alright, so that's this series, and very exciting it was. Now let's move on to the next one. Alright, next series here. Washington and Boston. 4-1 for Boston in the series. Power play for Washington, 14.3%. Boston, 26.3%. Penalty killing, 73.7% for Washington. Boston, 85.7%. Washington struggled scoring, really. Ovechkin, 4 points. Oshie, 4 points. Hathaway, 3 points. Boston, Pasternak, 6 points. McAvoy, 5 assists. Bergeron, 4 points. Goaltending. For Washington, it was a little bit of a struggle, but Boston just played very, very well. Ilya Samsonov, 0-3, 2.99 goals against average, 8.99 save percentage. I'm not going to say he played bad, but that giveaway really hurt him. I think he played well. He played fine. Craig Anderson, I know you could have started him, but I wouldn't have either. Craig Anderson, 1-1, 2.67, 9.29 save percentage. Vitek Vanacek, unfortunately he was hurt in game 1, or else he probably would have started the bulk of these games. Tuukka Rask, 4-1, 1.81 goals against average, 9.41 save percentage. Classic Tuukka Rask, played very well. So game 1, 3-2 for Washington in overtime. Tom Wilson, our favorite player in the world, got his first goal. Vitek Vanacek hurt after the tying goal. Anderson was in. And Richie gets his first playoff goal. Nick Dowd with the overtime winner. And Craig Anderson's first win since May 23rd, 2017. Game 2, 4-3 for Boston in overtime. Connor Clifton was in. Shots were 12-4 for Washington in 8 minutes. First goal for the perfection line in the first period. Lots of scrums. Shots were 18 apiece in the first period. Lars Eller not back in the third period. Hathaway gets his second of the game. But Taylor Hall, what a pickup he was. He tied it with 2:50 left. Marchand scores 39 seconds into overtime. 48 shots for Boston, 63% of the faceoffs. After this game, it's hard to rebound because you were 2:50 away from getting a 2-0 series lead, but you unfortunately lose the lead and then you lose in overtime. That's very unfortunate and hard to recover from. Game 3. 3-2 for Boston in double overtime. Lars Eller was out. Samsonov started the game. Ovechkin and Hall traded goals in the second. Nick Dowd scores late in the second. Marchand tied it. Washington hit 2 posts in the final minutes. Shots were 16-5 in overtime for Boston. Pasternak with a breakaway and was hurt in overtime number 2, but he was able to play out the rest of the games. Linesman hurt off the faceoff, but he was okay. Smith, overtime winner off a Samsonov turnover, and I think that this game hurt even more than Game 2. Game 4, 4-1 for Boston. Eller and Oshie were in. Samsonov started. Caps fail on 2 early power plays. A late post for Charlie Coyle. 4 shots from Washington in the first period. Samsonov looked hurt, but he stayed in. Washington goes 18 minutes between the 4th and the 5th shot for them. That's not good. Marchand opens the scoring in the second on the power play. Kevin Miller went to hospital after Dmitry Orlov hit him pretty high. No suspension there. No fine either. David Pasternak and Coyle scores 34 seconds apart to start the third period. Ovechkin scored on the power play. Grzelcyk gets his 4-1 goal. Washington 1 for 7 on the power play, but no shots on 4 of them. Boston 3 for 5 on the power play. Game 5, 3-1 for Boston. Kevin Miller was out. Pasternak and Bergeron scored in the second. Shots were 20-4 for Washington in the second. Connor Sherry gets a goal 11 seconds into the third. Bergeron scores again off turnover. Eller scored but did not count due to goaltender interference. Shots 41-19 for Washington. And what I have to say about this series is, especially in Game 5, Washington might have dominated, but Tuukka Rask, and sometimes when you are the team getting dominated in the shots and all that, sometimes it only takes one shot, and that completely blows the other team out of the water. Sometimes that happens and it sucks. We saw that in the Golden Knights series as well, when they outshot the Wild 40-14 but still lost the game. Sometimes it's those opportunities that when the team is able to take advantage of them, it doesn't matter if you're getting dominated. Sometimes you just get those bounces. And yeah, Game 3 I think really hurt. Game 2 hurt. The overtime wins for Boston really hurt. Otherwise, this was another very chippy series, physical series. Boston played very well, especially in Game 4 and Game 5. Tuukka Rask played great. Samsonov, he had his struggles, but I think he played all right. Washington, maybe I guess their window of winning is starting to diminish a little bit here. But they did struggle this season, a lot of COVID issues and all that. Washington power play, I think, really hurt them, yeah. So not much to say here, but Boston played very well, and we'll see how they fare against the Islanders in the next round. Alright, so now let's move on to the next series. So Colorado and St. Louis. Now this is complete domination by Colorado, 4-0, and they're still very much the favorites to win the Stanley Cup. I can completely agree with that because they're doing great. 50% on the power play, St. Louis 22.2%. Penalty killing for Colorado 77.8%, St. Louis 50%. Difficult for Colorado, that first line. Top 3, obviously. McKinnon 6 goals in 4 games. Landeskog 8 points, ranging in 7. For St. Louis, Thomas and O'Reilly at 3 points. Tarasenko 2 goals. Goaltending, Grubauer played just as well as he did in the regular season with a 4-0 record, .936 save percentage. Binnington had his struggles, some bad decisions, and once again, following his poor performance last year in the bubble, another poor performance in this playoff run. Game 1, 4-1 for Colorado. Landeskog and Shannon in a fight, as you see in the picture there. Cale Makar, the opening goal. Shots 18-5 for Colorado in the first. Binnington, huge saves in the second. Cairo tied the game for the Blues. McKinnon scored 30 seconds into the third. Landeskog got a deflection goal. McKinnon hit the empty netter. 50 shots for Colorado. And for St. Louis, they can't allow 50 shots against probably the most offensive juggernaut in the league. Game 2, 6-3 Colorado. Donskoy opened the scoring 35 seconds in. McKinnon on the power play. 19-6 the shots in Colorado in the first. Don scored blade trade goals, Kadri with a match penalty, and that's one thing that will carry over to the second. Kadri being suspended for 8 games. Justin Falk was out. 2 empty netters for Avs after the Blues pushed. 29 shots in the final 2 periods for the Blues. And McKinnon with a hat trick. My goodness. Game 3, 5-1 Colorado. Blues hold the Avs to 5 shots in the first. Graves forward, as you see on this picture here. Binnington, I don't know what he's doing. Newhook scored his first NHL goal for the Avs in the second. Joe scored, but Bozak got a shorthanded goal 9 seconds later. Shots 33-26 for St. Louis in a losing effort, and Berube upset about officiating, saying it's so one-sided it's not even funny. Well, there's some logic there, but certainly sometimes you make your own luck, even in getting power plays. Game 4, 5-2 for Colorado. Newhook was injured. Tarasenko opened the scoring. Saad and Landeskog scored later. Rantanen made it 3-1. Tarasenko got a second goal. McKinnon and Nichushkin with empty netters. What a perfect series for the Avs. And this showed us how good the Avs are. I know the St. Louis Blues had virtually nothing against the Avs, even in my prediction. But I think the Blues, honestly, they played as well as they could, to be honest. I can't say that the Blues played really bad because they tried. They were in games. They tried. But Colorado is a little too good. They will be facing Vegas in the next round, and that's a little bit of a challenge. But I think Colorado can pull through almost any kind of adversity. So now let's move on to the next series. Alright, so here's Vegas and Minnesota. And this was a series that went to 7 that we didn't expect. Although I did predict Minnesota in 7. I was close, I guess. It did go to 7. Yeah. Alright, so the Golden Knights 13.3% on the power play. Minnesota 18.2%. Penalty killing for Vegas 81.8%. Minnesota 86.7%. For Vegas, Matthias Janmark with the hat trick in Game 7. Clutch. Now he's the point leader. Notice that these point totals aren't that high because Golden Knights, they do have some struggle scoring at times. For Minnesota, Eriksson, Parisi, and Kaprizov had 2 goals, 1 assist, 3 points. And there's their top 3. They also had their struggle scoring goals. Marc-Andre Fleury, his numbers did come back to earth a little after the last 3 games or so. It did kind of come back to earth, but they're still very good. 4-3, 4-3, 1.71 goals against average, .931 save percentage. Cam Talbot, bless his heart, he played great. 3-4, 2.45, .923. Great goaltending duel here. I love it. Game 1-0 for Minnesota in overtime. Pacioretty and Parisi were both out. Fleury with highlight reel saves. Eriksson gets the overtime winner. Talbot with a 42 save shutout, and the Wild of 71 hits, which is record-breaking. Goodness. Game 2, 3-1 for Vegas. Shots were 17-8 in the Wild in the first. Teams traded goals in 18 seconds in the second. Tuck with the second goal for Vegas for the lead, and the goal in the third. Vegas holds the Wild to 17 shots in the final 2 periods. Great defensive work by the Golden Knights. Game 3. What am I saying? Game 3. 5-2 for Vegas. Wild with 2 early goals. Hartman 2:16 in. Eriksson and Kaprizov for the first point. Their third goal was taken back for offside. That would prove very important. Shots were 7-4 after the first for Minnesota. Vegas with 18 shots in the first 12 minutes of the second. Patrick Brown tied it. Smith gave Vegas the lead. 22 shots for Vegas in the second period. Carlson with the goal. Wild with 2 close calls. The post. A glove from Fleury on the post. Still in the empty netter. Shots 40-16 for Vegas. Fleury allows 2 or less for a 12th consecutive game. My goodness. Vegas getting hurt early, but able to bounce back. And I felt that this game was a backbreaker for the Wild. And it looked very much like it in Game 4, 4-0 for Vegas. Parisi back in the lineup. Waugh opened the scoring. Tuck scored in the second. 4-minute power play for high stick on the Golden Knights, but Stone had a shorthanded goal. Waugh, the empty netter, shots 35-18 for Minnesota. First time the Wild lost 3 straight games this year. Fleury with a 35-save shutout. Game 5. Very strange game here. 4-1 for Minnesota. Addison's first playoff game. Stone scored to open the scoring, and it looked like the Wild were getting dominated, but Kaprizov responds 52 seconds later for his first playoff goal in their first shot at 9:06 in the first. Parisi and Greenway scored to make it 3-1. Addison, first point. That's 3 goals on 5 shots from Fleury. Martinez scored in the second. Shots were 22-1 in the second period. Sturm in the empty netter, and shots were 40-14 for Vegas. Much like Game 3, which was 40-16, this was 40-14, but this time the Wild win the game. And this reminds me of Vegas and Vancouver, their Game 5. When they're being dominated, virtually being dominated in every facet, but they get timely goals. Canucks got timely goals. Thatcher Demko was great. And Cam Talbot felt like a Thatcher Demko in that Game 5 to steal the game for the Wild. Game 6, what did I say? That's even more like Game 6 for Vegas and Vancouver, where Thatcher Demko shut out the Golden Knights. This time Ryan Reeves was out. Solid defense both ways. Just 6 shots for Vegas in the first. So that's great improvement from the Wild. Wild pushed late in the first. Fleury big saves. Dumba and Martinez fought in the second. Hartman scored in the third. Stevenson scored, but no goal due to goaltender interference. Challenged by Vegas to no avail. And that ensued into a power play for the Wild. And Fiala scored on the ensuing power play. Bukestad scored a third goal. What a defensive game by the Wild. They played their best game here. And Talbot with a 23-save shutout. Game 7, 6-2 for Vegas, as we saw yesterday. Reeves and Pacioretty were in, and that was big. Janmark scores early for the Golden Knights. The Vegas push from the Wild were able to hold on. Parisi with a goal to tie it. The Wild ended up outshooting the Golden Knights 10-8 in the first, and it looked good for the Wild because they were able to fight off that onslaught. Brodin was injured in the first. Kaprizov hits the puck off the post early, and that was very unfortunate for the Wild because Haig scores his first playoff goal from the blue line for Vegas. Kaprizov responds to the goal in the power play. Pacioretty hits his first goal since May 1st for the lead. Whitecloud scores as well, which is like the third defensive pairing of Haig and Whitecloud getting goals. That's just big. That's big for their careers, big for their morale. Janmark with the 5th and 6th goal for the hat-trick in the third. Golden Knights with a great closing Game 7. Great play. It looked like the Wild had the momentum, but the Golden Knights finally played to their potential and they were able to score. That's a big thing. That's a concern I have with them against the Avs. When they struggle to score, they don't win games. Marc-Andre Fleury can't bail you out every game, and sometimes they just get shut out. Sometimes they just score 1 goal. When they have 40 plus shots, sometimes they just don't score. That's a little bit of an issue, but you can't really blame them. Sometimes they just get goalied. But we will see how they fare against the Avs in the next round. All right. Great goaltending duel. Bless the Wild's heart. They played very, very well. Kept it close. Bless their hearts. The bourgeoisie wins against the team that is for the people, as I say all the time. All right. So the Golden Knights win this one. Let's move on to the next series. All right. So Toronto and Montreal. This is the last series I'm recording the recap for, so even though this comes before Edmonton and Winnipeg in my video, I am recording this one last. And what a series. It's a 3-3 tie. It's not over yet, so in our next recap we'll go over what happens in Game 7, which is tomorrow. So, power play for Toronto, 14.3%, Montreal, 11.1%. Penalty killing for Toronto is 88.9%, Montreal, 85.7%. Top 3 point getters for Toronto, William Nylander with 7 points, Kerfoot with 6 points, and Spezza with 4. For Montreal, more of a spread right now. Yoel Armia with 4 points, Tyler Toffoli with 4 points, and Jesperi Kotkaniemi with 3 goals, including that overtime winner, which is great. Goaltending, Jack Campbell, 3-3, 1.77 goals against average, .937 save percentage. He's been great. He's probably overall outplayed Carey Price overall, but Maple Leafs are still tied in the series. Carey Price on the other end, he's had some heroics to keep the Canadiens in the series, so great on him. So a lot of games to recap here. Game 1, 2-1 for Montreal. First playoff meeting since 1979. Carey Price versus Jack Campbell. Gallagher and Weber are back in. The big story of Game 1 was the John Tavares injury, when Corey Perry accidentally tripped and kneed Tavares' head, leading to a concussion. He went to hospital. He has since been discharged, of course, and he's skating again, which is great to see. Nick Foligno and Corey Perry fought after. Anderson scored for Montreal. Jake Evans was injured for Montreal and he slotted back in Game 6. Toronto took 3 delay of game penalties. Byron shorthanded goal was a game winner. Both teams didn't score in the power play. In Game 2, 5-1 for Toronto. Kotkaniemi opened the scoring. In his return to the lineup, Spezza tied the game. 4 straight power plays in the second for Toronto in about 10 minutes. Matthews scored. Rasmus Sandin scored his first playoff goal on the power play. Goaltender interference challenge was unsuccessful. The shots were 20-6 for Toronto in the second. Nylander with a power play goal in the third. Kerfoot empty netter scrums late. First win for Jack Campbell in the playoffs, and first win for the Leafs against Habs in the playoffs in 19,744 days. It's like 54 years. So that was some definite history making. In Game 3, 2-1 for Toronto. Nick Foligno was out. Cole Caulfield was in. A double minor power play early for the Habs, but no shots on it. Just a Caulfield crossbar on that power play. Third power play, also no shots. A Price with an insane paddle save, I'm sure you've seen that. Arturi Lehkonen was injured after a collision. Nylander scored. Third straight game with goal. Nick Suzuki scored later. Riley scores late in the second. Shots were 15-2 for Montreal in the third period, but the Leafs held on to win that one. Game 4, 4-0 for Toronto. Foligno was still out. Dermott and Brooks were in for Sandin and Nash. Stahl was in for Lehkonen. Spezza denied by Price on breakaway early. Nylander gets another goal, his 4th straight game with a goal. Spezza and Thornton also scored. Passes from Galchenyuk. And Galchenyuk scored the empty netter. He had 3 points. The power play for Montreal still couldn't score. And Campbell with a 32 save shutout. After Game 4, 3-1 series lead. I bet Maple Leafs fans were very cautiously optimistic that they would be able to close out the series in 5, maybe 6. Well, in Game 5, it was 4-3 Montreal in overtime. Simmons had an early post. Armia with 2 goals early in the first. Kotkaniemi scored early in the second. Hyman responded on a greasy goal. Early big saves by Price in the third. 6 shots in the first 3 minutes for Toronto. Muzzin scored after the power play to make it 3-2. And scores again in the for a second of the game to tie it. But Nick Suzuki scored on a 2-0 off a I think people will forget that Toronto had that 3-goal comeback in the third. But ultimately, they do lose the game, which is unfortunate. So we go on to Game 6, which was yesterday, and what a game it was! 3-2 for Montreal in overtime. There's 2,500 fans in the building at Bell Center in Montreal. Nick Foligno was in, Evans was in, Tatar was out for Montreal. 6 shots for Montreal in the first 2 minutes, 10 shots in 5 minutes. No shots in the first 2 power plays from the Leafs, scoreless after 2 periods. Perry scored a greasy goal, first power play goal in the series for Montreal. Challenged by Toronto for goalie interference, but was unsuccessful. Marner threw the puck out of the rink for a delay of game penalty on the power play, on the penalty kill, and Toffoli scored on the ensuing 5-on-3. Spezza and Brody scored in 5 minutes and 14 seconds apart to tie the game. Jake Muzzin was injured. The Leafs dominate most of the OT with the shots are 13-2, but the one shot of a Travis Dermott turnover and Kotkaniemi gets the overtime winner, and we're heading to a Game 7. Now, I know fans are very upset that the Maple Leafs are not looking good. And you know what happens in Game 7. But it's not over, obviously. Toronto will be playing in Toronto to hopefully close this out in 7. Montreal looks to stage the comeback. Now, a lot of upset fans out there, Steve Dangle, who definitely seems very distraught, very upset, and I feel for him. I do hope that he's okay, and yeah, it might be best to not do LFRs for him if the Maple Leafs lose this 7th game. I do hope that the curse gets lifted eventually, because the Leafs look good. They looked good in Game 6, honestly. They did. In the second half of it, I think they played great. Overtime, they played great. But it's that one opportunity that the opposing team gets and they score on it. So it's taking advantage of those opportunities that you get maybe once in a while, but it works. For Montreal, they know they have to play better in overtime. And for Toronto, they cannot fall behind again. They need to play just as they did in Games 2, 3, and 4 when they have the lead. Having the lead is much better. I do hope that Toronto had fans in the stands for Game 7, but I don't think they will. But it would be a very good response if they did that. And fans do help the home team, that's for sure. Now, I do hope Toronto breaks the curse here, and I think this gets out of the meme form, because no one takes them seriously, because even though they're pretty good in the regular season, Austin Matthews with 41 goals, Marner being a very good player, they haven't showed up very much in this series, and I think it's much similar with McDavid and Draisaitl, who played well, honestly, but yeah, carrying the team a little bit. Toronto has a deep team. They have a deeper team than Edmonton, but I don't know, it just doesn't work sometimes. They say you make your own luck. Do I honestly blame them? No, I don't, because I think the Leafs are the better team. But sometimes it just doesn't go their way. Many times. A cursed team since 1967, that's for sure. I do hope they break the curse eventually. Will it be tomorrow in Game 7? We will see, everyone. Alright, now let's move on to our final series recap of the day. Alright, so here's the final matchup here with Edmonton and Winnipeg. Series went to a sweep for the Winnipeg Jets. Great effort from them. Got a feel for McDavid and Draisaitl. We all make fun of them. We all say that they're frauds, that they didn't play well. Well, yeah, they carried their team on their backs. Once again, the Oilers. 18.2% on the power play. Winnipeg 30%. Edmonton on the penalty kill 70%. Winnipeg 81.8%. For the Oilers, Draisaitl and McDavid 5 points and 4 points respectively. Nugent Hopkins with 2 points. For the Jets, Scheifele and Wheeler had 5 points. Kyle Connor with 4 points. Goaltending, Mike Smith. Hey, he played the best he could, to be honest. 0-4, 912 save percentage. Connor Hellebuck, those numbers did get back down to earth a little bit, but still first in the save percentage. 4-0, 950 save percentage. Insane numbers. In Game 1, 4-1 for Winnipeg. Ehlers and Dubois were out. 50 hits after the first, 31 for Winnipeg. Puljujarvi and Pullman trade goals in the second. Tornado tips the goal in. The buzzer by Toronto confirmed the goal. Wheeler and Connor with empty netters. Game 2, 1-0 for Winnipeg in overtime. Pierre-Luc Dubois was in. Jets with 17 shots in the first period. Big saves both ways. Scoreless after regulation. Goaltenders were being amazing. Stanley with the overtime winner. Hellebuck 38 save shutout. Game 3, 5-4 for Winnipeg in overtime. Nikolai Ehlers was in. Draisaitl scores 2 early. McDavid first points. Ehlers and Cassian trade goals late in the second. Kara scored to make 4-1. But Perreault, Wheeler, and Morrissey scored in 3:03 in the third period to tie it. Crazy. That's like shades of the Toronto Maple Leafs right there. Overtime winner for Nikolai Ehlers to complete the comeback. Crazy game. I couldn't imagine the Oilers coming back after that kind of loss, but they tried. In Game 4, 4-3 for Winnipeg in triple overtime. Scheifele scored early in the power play. McDavid with a wonderful tying goal. Appleton gave the Jets the lead late in the first. R&H scored early in the second. Chason scored late for the Oilers. Scheifele tied it. Wheeler, what a trooper. Blocking a shot in a sensitive area with less than 30 seconds left in the third. Oilers thought the goal went in overtime, went off in the side of the goal, so no goal. Kyle Connor with a triple overtime game. Nurse 62 minutes of ice time, 2:59 short of Seth Jones' record in that 5 overtime game. So I think the problem here and why the Oilers lost is still the same reason, and that is depth. Their depth is not there. They're getting everything from Draisaitl and McDavid, maybe Nugent Hopkins, maybe Puljujarvi at most, and then that's it. Literally, that's it. Defense as well. They were literally just playing Darnell Nurse and Tyson Barrie in that overtime. Well, I know you gotta shorten your bench, but come on, you gotta have at least 4 or 5 defensemen on the ice. Yeah, but unfortunately, when you put Ethan Bear in, the first shift he has in overtime, he gets scored on. So that's the problem. They don't have depth yet. And by the way, for Ethan Bear, he made a great statement, and good on him for making that statement, coming out, saying that. Good progress. I love that. So yeah, the Oilers, I bet McDavid and Draisaitl are really, really unhappy. I hope they've gotten over it. If they stay in Edmonton, I bless their hearts, first of all. Edmonton and Draisaitl, 105 points for McDavid, 80-something for Draisaitl. They carry this team on their back, and that's not good enough. It isn't, unfortunately. And the Jets exploited that. That's for sure. And the mentality when they have a 4-1 lead, you can't allow three goals in 3 minutes. Come on. But the Jets have to give as much credit to them as possible because they played a great 4 games. 3 of them were in overtime, but they stuck with it and they exploited some tired Oilers defense. Well, yeah, that's that. The Jets will move on, and I have them probably winning the next round too. Alright, so here are some of the injuries that are in the round 2 matchups. for Colorado, Johnson, Newhook, Francois injured. For Vegas is Nosek and McNabb. McNabb is on the COVID protocol list, so he should be back. That's not really an injury. For the Islanders and Bruins series, who already played Game 1 as of me recording this video, but I'm not going to recap that until next week. For Boston is Kevin Miller. For the Islanders is Delco and Wallstrom. Carolina and Tampa have no substantial injuries. For the Toronto-Montreal series, Tavares is a concussion. Muzzin is out for Toronto. Lehkonen out for Montreal. For Winnipeg, Ehlers was injured, but he was back for Game 3, so he's not injured anymore. Of course, Winnipeg's still waiting for Toronto and Montreal to finish their series. Maybe they're maniacally laughing right now because of the great emotions coming in that series, and I think it's good for them that they're playing this hard. Alright, some takeaways. 21 of 44 games so far were 1-goal games, so very close playoff series for a lot of the matchups so far. 16 games went to OT out of 44 games. That's more than a third of the games that went to overtime. Seems like a lot. Man, I wish the Oilers and Jets series had fans, because it was a very exciting series, especially that triple overtime game. Goaltenders are insane, some great goaltending. Nedeljkovic, UC Saros, Connor Hellebuck, Mike Smith played great. Jack Campbell played great. Who else played great? Vasilevsky. We had Spencer Knight. Yeah. Just to name a few. Okay, the fans in Carolina and Nashville looking really great. As well as the Florida and Tampa, I think the fans were very cool there. And for the fans in Montreal that came in for Game 6, what a great game they had. Got their money's worth, that's for sure. And we have 3 of the round 2 matchups set right now with Carolina and Tampa, who played today, I believe. Boston and the Islanders played yesterday. The Bruins have a 1-0 series lead with a 5-2 victory in Game 1. For Colorado and Vegas, they will play tonight, I believe. And we have Toronto and Montreal still playing, and they'll play their 7th game on Monday. And Winnipeg waiting in the wings. I have some predictions here that the Canes, Bruins, and Avs will win the series. Canes in 7, Bruins in 6, Avalanche in 6, and I believe Winnipeg will beat out either Toronto or Montreal in 6 games. I have recorded 3 of the 4 previews because the 4th one is not set yet. I have already done the previews. They're on my YouTube channel if you want to check those out. And for the recaps, we will see you next week on June 6th for our 3rd week recap. It's going to be a shorter one next week because it's just 4 matchups. We will go through everything that happens in the week. If there are any suspensions, any news, trades, injuries, all that stuff, we will go through all of that next week. We will also be going over Toronto and Montreal Game 7 as well. And of course, I have Toronto and Winnipeg. I hope this doesn't jinx anyone. I have Toronto and Winnipeg on this page, and that might be a little too soon to say. Well, we'll see, won't we? Alright, so that is it for this week's recap. Quite a long one, again, but it will only get shorter from here. Alright, so thanks for watching today. Enjoy the hockey, it's very exciting. And until next time, for our preview or recap, I'll see you soon. See you later. Take care, everyone. Have a great rest of your weekend.